Hello, everybody. In this video, I wanted to talk about how to take a compliment, how to take in the positive, which I was talking and I was hearing that it's important to be able to not only take in the good things in your life, recognize the good things and take them out and take them from the exterior towards in the inside, but also for you to be able to recognize the out, right? The outer good things, the outer positive things, and to acknowledge them, to recognize them, to explicitly say that they're good things, right? Now, this is important because many times we focus only on the negative things, and that's good because we're able to take in the negative, we're able to dish out the negative, but we don't really practice doing the positive, doing that with the positive, right? So here I'm gonna start out by saying why I don't like judgment in general. So I don't like when people say good things about me because just the idea is that they can say good things just as much as they can say bad things, and they probably do say bad things, but they don't tell you bad things, they just tell you the good things. The idea here is that just any type of judgment, for me, I've always kind of like rejected it. I don't like it. It kind of gets me angry because I say, you can say something good about me or something bad about me, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you know me. It doesn't mean that you're able to evaluate me successfully, right? Like what's your criteria? What are you even doing? But that's not good because then you're always going to be negative and you're always going to be expecting negative and only dishing out negative, and that's not good. You have to practice how to take a compliment, for example. So I've looked up a couple things online, and here are some things that they said. I'm going to be talking about my ideas on some of these things. The first one is just say thank you. So just don't reject it, right? Don't say I don't like that, right? Excuse me, but just say thank you. And also, another thing is that you could return the favor. So it could be like a justice thing. Like if someone says a compliment or a nice thing about you, you can also return the favor, right? And maybe say a nice thing about the other person, and or you could focus on the intention. So it's not so much that the person. And sometimes I think as humans we struggle with emotions, we struggle with words. So we have the idea or we have the feeling, but we can't really like say it. So it may come across as clumsy, but we have to focus on the intention. The person's intention is good, it's fair, it's saying something about them, right? It's saying that they want to acknowledge something that we've done. So we have to accept that, right? We have to say that's you're trying your best, just like I would if I were maybe trying to say a compliment, but I can't really find the right words, right? So that has to be acknowledged. Focus on the intention. Now, as for because I kind of looked this up, like when and how can you give compliments? Can you receive compliments? And the idea that I got is that you could delay the compliment, right? Or you could say it on the spot. Now, this is a little bit dangerous because if you say it on the spot and there are other people around there, then implicitly you're going to be comparing that person to the other people, and that's not good, right? So what you kind of want to do is maybe delay it and say it when the person is alone, right? Or maybe when they're down. This was another tip that I found kind of interesting, intriguing. It says when they feel depressed or sad or they're going through a rough moment, you can make the compliments. So you kind of make their day, bring them up a little bit mood wise. You could also say it casually during a conversation, or even just randomly, right? Like know when to say it, right? And maybe it's not going to be in the moment that you would expect or that they'd expect. Maybe it could just be in a random moment, but dish it out, practice saying it, right? And obviously, you really have to think about what makes the other person great. You have to really focus on those type of things that this article was saying that they can control. So don't focus on things that are out of their control, because they're probably just gonna, and this is gonna be I'm gonna end up by talking about backhanded compliments towards the end, which I think is really at the heart of my struggle with this. But they were saying, yeah, focus on things that they can control, like their appearance, right? Or maybe the things that they're doing currently in their life, like if they're carrying out some project or something like that. But say don't compliment them on things that are out of their control, because that could just sound off, right? And that's the tricky thing with compliments. So they say you could use it as an icebreaker, which was another good idea. I found that. I think I saw most of these in. I use ChatGPT and WikiHow, but use that as an icebreaker, right? Like, oh, nice shoes or something like that, I guess. Be genuine and specific. So they say, obviously, be real. So really think about what you like about that person or what you want to compliment. And specific means you can't just say general things, right? Like this article was saying, like, oh, you're a good worker, or you're a hard worker, or you're an excellent whatever, right? Like actually say why they are that way. What did you see that makes them that general idea, right? Which I think is good. Like be specific about what it is that you see. Look for things they value, right? So look for things that they're actually working towards, and practice doing it, right? Like practice giving the compliment, practice saying. Now, for me, it kind of, Sartre, I think, was the one that said in Nausea, or I don't remember where he said, but I think he said something more or less along the lines of the moment you describe something, you stop it. And I'm kind of like a firm believer in that. So it kind of goes with that idea of, okay, if I'm going to give you, you're funny, and I'm going to say you're funny, that's just going to stop the moment. That may even stop the person from being funny anymore, because it's going to make them self-conscious. That's my problem with compliments, with complimenting, with taking in the positive, right? Which, if I think you're funny, I just want you to flow. I just want you to be. I don't want to make you self-conscious so that now you have a hard time doing that. So like, let's say you're really good at something, right? And you're doing it, and then someone comes along and says, hey, you're really good at that. And it makes you self-conscious, so it actually disrupts your mentality, it disrupts your process. And now when you're doing it, you're either subconsciously or in the back of your head, or consciously thinking about that, and then you may mess up, right? So that's why I feel like it diminishes the process or the event by stating the obvious. All right. So another tip that I could have here is maybe acknowledge things indirectly or more powerfully. So using the indirect method, the peripheral method, could be a better way to get people to feel good about themselves, to take the compliment, right? So instead of saying like, you're a really good worker, you really know how to do that, maybe talk about the benefits, the consequences of that person doing that, right? Like you could say something like, hey, a lot of people benefit from your work, or you do really, instead of saying like, you're really good at painting, like, wow, you really sell a lot of paintings, or you've made a lot of money with your paintings, like, haven't you? Like, I guess that may even sound backhanded, but making the statements related more to the consequences, kind of getting away from the person's actual process, direct process, right? Even though they do say like, be specific maybe about things that are further away. I guess that could be a tip. If a person's funny, instead of saying you're funny explicitly, maybe just laugh a lot, right? Like, if they're actually causing you to laugh, just laugh. And I guess that's the feedback loop that other person can take in, right? Now, I know there are moments when you're explicitly going to have to say things, and that's the part that I'm struggling with. So I think that just perfection just comes through practice. But yeah, that would be my problem with it. The last one says, be wary of backhanded compliments. So that's when you say things like, when you compliment a person, but you're really insulting them, or there's really like a negative connotation there. Like this example was saying, like, oh, hey, you're really good at decorating with the little that you have, right? Like basically calling like the person poor, or that they're lacking resources, or like it's wonderful what you can do with so little, like, so you're kind of like, what, like, why would you say that, right? So like black backhanded compliments comes from, backhand, like they're indirect, and they're a way of making the person feel bad, right, but not really sure why. Like you could see a lot of maybe like old ladies from the elites kind of talking like this, maybe amongst themselves. Like think about Downton Abbey, and if any of you have seen Downton Abbey, like the grandmother, right? Like making these backhanded compliments, right? Like, oh, you actually look good in that, or like. Like I wasn't expecting you because you're so ugly or whatever, right? So there's like a subtext in what you're saying. But yeah, I think the idea here is to maybe show the person through different ways, through different means, either through the feedback loop of your reactions, either by focusing maybe on the consequences of their actions, the positive things that they're doing, the results, instead of just like the direct cause of what they're doing. I think those would be maybe more beneficial ways to cope with the idea of making it awkward, cutting the person off, or maybe even just being judgmental, right? Because you are judgmental. If you give compliments, you're evaluating. So it's like, who are you to judge? But it is, and it's kind of like an ego thing, right? Because you're feeding the other person's ego at the same time. So you don't really want to feed egos. You don't want to be feeding your own ego. But you do need to do that once in a while as well. You need to feed your egos. You need to feed other people's egos because it feels good, right? So once in a while, I mean, as long as it's not always, you don't become a narcissist. But if it's occasionally, I think it's healthy. And plus, it gets you away from the negative feedback loop in which you're in, of always just detecting the negative, taking in the negative, dishing out the negative, right? Like actually focusing for a while in the positive, because that's destructive too. You're not real just because you're focusing on the negative, right? Like this is real life, it's harsh. Yeah, but life isn't all bad. There are good things too. So you need to focus on those things too. And you need to be able to process them as well, right? So yeah, focus on the positive as well. Get away a little bit from that negativity and just find a place for positivity in your life, as well as for dishing it out. So I guess that's all I got for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.